national education policy is the theme. And I just heard Professor Rajiv Tiwari. It was a very eloquent presentation, and Professor Katimani was very focused on particular topic in the national education policy. I share with Professor Katimani that I am also from Karnataka, and well, then that does not mean anything extra. I'm also an Indian like all of you. Right then. My most important point, my presentation shall be very focused. I shall not go from section number 1 to section number 26 of National Education Policy. You know that National Education Policy has got about 26 sections, out of which up to 8 sections are school education, and 9th section onwards, the higher education commences, and 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, and 13th. It would go up to 14th section, higher education, and later the B.Ed has been dealt in 2 specific sections. That's very interesting, and vocational programs also have been dealt. But the most important, which has been spanning all through the national education policy, I shall focus upon that. It is on the stress for formative assessment. I would like to, this is the greatest expectation of national education policy. Look, I shall start with a very simple thing. Any teacher in the classroom, while he is teaching, including myself, because I am also basically a teacher, after teaching, particularly recall those days of blackboard, and later now we have got the whiteboard, and after teaching, we end up taking the red colored chalk and putting a star mark and tell that this is important. My whole doubt is, then whatever we taught till yesterday, were they not important? Why only this is important? And why we teachers make that mistake of emphasizing that this is important? Important from which point of view? Is it from the point of view of life, or is it from the point of view of the stupid examination which is going to come at the end of the semester or at the end of the year? Most of the time, we stress upon the importance through the examination question paper and putting the red mark on the board, stressing that it is important, telling that examiner cannot miss to set a question based on this. And that is how our education has been focused upon. Unfortunately, our education is preparation centered, not at all learning centered. Perhaps after 70 years, after 72, 73 years, this is the first time an education policy is so strongly speaking about not on this preparatory aspect as the method of assessment, and preparation for a stupid examination shall not create a graduate. Preparation for a stupid examination shall not create a knowledge practitioner, but then what it prepares is a person who can just pass the examination. Look at the teachers as well as the students. They also depend upon the old question papers. If the old question papers can decide the breadth and the depth of the syllabus, then why should there be boards of studies which are setting meticulously such a syllabus, looking into what has got to be covered in the exam, what has got to be covered in the classrooms? We have got to think very seriously, right? Very little serious thinking shall definitely make all of us to understand and appreciate the National Education Policy 2020, which by itself is very critical in nature. This National Education Policy, which has been authored, has got to be appreciated that it has not been written to please any particular person, to please any particular party, to please any particular ism, but it has been written to bring out the best of India and to take India to the foremost front, which has got to be understood. And every way, in almost all alternate sections, it has been emphasized that the attention should be towards formative assessment, not towards summative assessment. Now, even look at our examination question papers, starting from a language question paper, starting from even an arts question paper, economics question paper, even our engineering question papers. I'm sure Dr. Rajiv Tiwari, Professor Rajiv Tiwari would certainly accept with me that we have not lost the stupidity of asking the question in the following way: Explain how Akbar ruled India. Explain with a neat diagram how does the oscillator work. In engineering, I cannot really understand what does that neat diagram mean. If I don't write the diagram, if I write a functional diagram, have I not understood the subject? Why there should be a neat diagram? And in fact, in primary school, still I recollect, good handwriting deserves 5 marks, and most of us used to get only that 5 marks, not the remaining 95 marks. All right. So the formative assessment now has been stressed, and all teachers have got to accept this point that we have to get into this formative assessment, not the stupid summative assessment with which we have been going. I'm not against summative assessment, but I shall come to that particular point why summative assessment also is necessary, but all through formative assessment is more important. So what is really formative assessment? Formative assessment happens because the learning is a formative process. The learning is a continuous process, and therefore assessment of the candidate should also be continuous. Please note, the way I am using the word, I am using the word that it is assessment. I am using the phrase that it is assessment of a candidate. It is not the examination of a candidate. Now, because of pandemic, thanks to pandemic, and look at the situation of the various universities and UGC, that they are debating upon whether examination should be conducted or not to be conducted, and if examination should be conducted, in what form the examination should be conducted. And I still do not understand why people are so bent upon conducting the examination. Please note the philosophical viewpoint of it. Examination can be done only by God. Examination can be done only by a medical doctor. Even a judge cannot examine a case, whereas a judge can order for the examination of a person. Please note that. And who are we to conduct examination? What is that? What is that sacred job that we are doing by conducting the examination? And okay, all right, look at the question paper in the examination. Answer any 5. What does it mean? Answer any 5. See, even in a running race, all the candidates have got to run in the same direction, whereas in examination paper, we give the flexibility to the examiner to run in any direction, because he can choose any 5 questions out of the 8 questions or out of the 7 questions. Either answer this or this. Will that be possible in life? Can that be possibility in life? Recall Abdul Kalam, what did he tell? Abdul Kalam mentioned that in nature, the question paper will be served first and then learning happens in nature. Whereas we teach and we leak indirectly the questions. We also emphasize by telling that these are important, and then towards the end, set of students would still approach you to tell, sir, what is that subject that I should study, I should read for the examination. In spite of it, all of them will not get 100 out of 100 marks. All of them will not even pass. The pass percentage cannot even cross 60 or 70% or 80%. And unfortunately, on the contrary, as Professor Rajiv Tiwari was mentioning, that our people, if they get less than 90 marks, it will be treated as almost a failure. And I cannot understand how in a language paper like Hindi, how in a language paper like in Kannada, people could get 100 out of 100 marks. And other interesting point, even with reference to language, I am not underestimating, or I am not with due regards to all teachers. I have been putting this across. Look at the question paper in Hindi, or look at the question paper in Kannada. The question will be, explain how Ravana carried away Sita. Where is the language component here in this question? If you are going to ask for the factuals, it is as good as a history question paper. It is as good as a geography question paper. How does it build upon the language? Where is the importance of language? Similarly, even in our engineering question paper, we have forgotten the engineering design should be tested. Engineering design should be assessed. Creative design has got to be assessed. We are so much influenced in asking the questions like explain and describe. And most important question which we don't miss is the last question, write short notes on the following. What does that mean? Write short notes on the following. Write short notes on the following simply means I also do not know how much I have got to teach in the class, and because it is in the syllabus and I have also not just done the justice in getting into the depth of that, but however I have got to demonstrate that the syllabus has been covered, therefore I shall put that topic, the title in the question paper under write short notes on, and I am aware that the student can write anything under that, and I am also aware that people, I shall give some marks for that, which may not be full out of full. That I am aware. This is what is the whole examination question paper. Now, the other point in the question paper is, I am sure the vice chancellors like Professor Katimani, Professor Rajiv Tiwari, and the future vice chancellor have already experienced the complaints from the teacher that I have been so senior, I am so senior, and my name does not appear as the BOE, Board of Examiners chairperson. And this BOE chairperson has not even asked me to set a question paper. These are the types of fightings, and National Education Policy has done an excellent job by putting a permanent full stop for all these stupid activities of so-called final examination, which loses its value, which loses its importance henceforth. It has got to lose. And I'm very proud to tell that, because as already the professor who introduced me told me that I have introduced this at University of Mysore. Anybody can open the information and see that in University of Mysore, in the Department of Computer Science and Engineering, this has been in practice from the past 12 years, and University of Mysore also has started in the past second 2 years. At IIIT Allahabad, much before the National Education Policy came into existence, the moment I joined IIIT Allahabad, right from 2017, we have been with this continuous assessment, and that continuous assessment pattern which we followed was able to save and conserve the time for IIIT Allahabad. We announced the result well on time. Our students did not have any objection at all. We were prepared for any compelled isolation. Even otherwise, in the regular practice also, whenever a student was under compelled isolation, he never felt any difficulty in joining the regular classroom because of technology. And we announced the result well in time. And we conducted the summer semester for the benefit of dropped candidates. We don't use the word fail, because nobody is a failure in this world. We don't tell that these candidates failed. We tell that the candidate has dropped, and for the benefit of the dropped candidate, we conducted the summer semester and the results were notified. And our regular semester, now regular semester has flagged off. However, we are waiting only for the first year admissions, which have got to be done by the Government of India. So now what is this formative assessment? Formative assessment assesses a candidate right from how he has been understanding, how he has been responding, how he has been listening, and how he has been comprehending, how he has been reacting, how he has been building up the model to solve the problem. Well then, surely the Honorable Vice Chancellors and the teachers will come out with an objection. With such a huge mass, can it be possible? And same National Education Policy has given a solution that the student to teacher ratio at most should be 1:20, at most, which means National Education Policy and Government of India is very much aware that the workforce, the teacher force has got to be enlarged, and therefore they are very much aware that large number of vacancies shall happen for teachers and large number of people will be recruited. That has got to happen, because at most they recommend the ratio has got to be 1:20, and you know that in IIIT we maintain a ratio of 1:12. For every 12 students there is one teacher here. Okay, and although the physical teacher is not available, we make it up through technology. We make it up through our research scholars, PhD scholars, and our MTech scholars, and all BTech scholars will definitely have one teacher, one teaching assistant for a group of 12 students. Okay, this is what has got to happen. So we have got to think in a totally different way. Now, the moment we tell that we think we have got to think in a different way, the moment we speak about formative assessment, which is a continuous assessment, people have the habit of telling that we have been borrowing the idea from America, we have been borrowing the idea from the Western world. No, not at all. It is incorrect. You look at our epic stories. In epic stories like Ramayana and Mahabharata also, when you look into particularly the education of all these people and the assessment of all those people, you can see that it was only formative assessment and it was continuous assessment. Why should we not do that? It is not something we are borrowing from the Western world. In fact, the ideas which are present in our epic stories have been totally taken over by the Western world, and we may be bringing it back, but then we have got to bring it back. All right. So now I shall now come and tell you. See, in life, most of the time, what are we going to do? We are going to plan. We are going to meticulously plan and then execute the plan. To meticulously plan and to execute the plan, you certainly need time. You need to have time and you need to have energy. You need to have the input. You need to consult your peers. You need to obtain the information from lot of resources and then put the plan into action. Before putting the plan into action, you have got to really plan. And this planning definitely takes lot of time. Therefore, planning is the most important thing. Even as an engineer, when I take up a job, I will be asked to work as an assistant to the senior engineer, and most of the time I will be end up doing a lot of planning work only, and that we forget. So planning has got to be definitely more time consuming, which surely is the part of formation of the candidate, formative assessment. That is where he is going to experience what has got to be done in planning. That is why national education policy stresses upon experiential learning, experience the learning. I just give you a very simple example. I was seeing many good lady professors also over here. I would just ask a very simple question to any one of the lady professor. One question is, how were you received by your mother-in-law on the very first day that you entered in your in-law's place? Does she need any preparation to answer this question? On the contrary, she will ask me the question, sir, please tell me whether this question is for 20 marks or whether this question is for 10 marks or whether this question is for 5 marks or whether this question is for 3 marks. And accordingly, if I tell that if this question is for 20 marks, she is ready to write down an answer of 5 to 10 pages also, how she was received by her mother-in-law. And if I tell it is for 10 marks, she can definitely summarize it and put it into 3 pages. If I tell it is only for 1 mark, she is also ready to put it in 1 sentence, and it did not require preparation. Look at, I'm sure Professor Rajiv Tiwari would have really experienced that the moment you announce the examination, the students will come and tell you, so there is no preparatory holiday. The preparatory time has not been enough. What does it mean? Preparation. What do you mean by preparation? What the hell were you doing right in all through the semester? So whole semester has got to be a continuous learning process. And that's exactly now, for the first time, boldly in India, Government of India has come out that it is formative assessment which has got to take place, not the summative assessment. Therefore, planning and execution has got to be assessed. And in my opinion, I shall tell that it has got to take a weightage of minimum 60 to 70%, minimum 60 to 70%. Whereas in IIIT Allahabad, my faculty right now, they go up to 80% of weightage for the formative assessment. Now, what is the summative assessment? Life is not very simple. Crisis will happen in life. What is crisis? The bridge collapses, the computer crashes, there will be a sudden rainfall, there will be sudden flush, there is a sudden flux and flood in Assam. How will you manage? How will you manage? You will get a sudden heart attack. How does the doctor manage? This is the crisis management. In fact, any vice chancellor, any principal has got to deal with everyday crisis. That is why this crisis handling will be given to those people only with lot of experience. Nobody born as an assistant professor can become a vice chancellor, because crisis management cannot be possible by him. Crisis management is also a part of learning, and crisis management should also be assessed. So now the examination that you conduct at the end of the semester should be able to simulate and emulate this crisis. Where is that crisis? Look at the question paper, look at the questions that you give. The question that you give does not emulate any crisis at all. When a person reads the question paper sitting in the chair, he must definitely sweat, because he will not be in a position to understand what the hell is going on with the question. That is what is crisis. And the person has got to withstand the crisis, answer the crisis, solve the crisis within small amount of time. That is the beauty of handling the crisis. Heart attack has got to be solved in the first 20 minutes. Bridge collapse has got to be controlled. Flood has got to be deviated. That has got to be done in the next 1 hour. And that exactly should happen in the final examination also. And that is the reason in the final examination, a candidate should be able to answer one question within half an hour, within 20 minutes, within 30 minutes. That has got to be the time limit. Well then, if somebody is a failure in managing the crisis, does not mean that he is a failure at all, because crisis management will be picked up along with the experience, but then he will be exposed to how crisis would be there in life. That is why national education policy strongly tells that the summative assessment should be given a lower weightage, formative assessment has got to be given a higher weightage, and in other words, it stresses upon continuous learning. I'm happy Professor Katimani and Professor Rajiv Tiwari mentioned on the point that the next 1 hour is that of a teacher, and as a vice chancellor, I would be blessed if I have such a teacher who confidently can walk into the classroom and deliver his material. I recall the movie Chak De, next 1 hour is yours. Play such that after 1 hour that becomes a history. And such a playing has got to be done by every teacher, because whatever he teaches after his class will be a great history for the learner, because he would remember it all through his life. In fact, even today I can collect to a particular listening which happened in the class, which even today helps me in solving the day-to-day problem. That is the way a teacher has got to be. Therefore, this can be possible if the teacher is active and the teacher acts instantaneously, and the teacher is philosophical in the total coverage. If the teacher is just 1 hour ahead of the learner, then what is the fun? Why should that teaching be done at all? Okay, now as already my predecessors have already identified it, now teacher has not been the only source. Today Google has been the source. If it is only the source to pass a stupid examination, our students know where the materials are available. It is not passing the examination, it is learning. Most important is understanding, comprehension. We have forgotten that my students have got to understand. We have forgotten that my students have got to learn. We have also forgotten that my students have got to apply it in the real life. But we have been stressing, particularly mothers in the homes, they stress that you have got to pass this examination. You have got to pass it 100 out of 100 mark. These compulsions will definitely not make learning the beautiful thing. I know that I'm running out of time, but before I conclude, I just want to add the following. See, in life, people, I'm sure all of you are from Allahabad. Remember those good old days immediately after we got independence, how our mothers wished that we should become advocates, we should become lawyers. How our mothers wished that we should become doctors, we should all become engineers. And today, the modern mothers, modern parents wish that everybody should become either an engineer or a manager. Please listen to me. Commits a mistake, if an advocate commits a mistake, it is not a mistake because his mistake will be hung 1 foot above the ground. Please understand, his mistake will be hung 1 foot above the ground. If a lawyer commits a mistake in the argument, the judge tells, go and hang him. The hanging punishment would be given. Therefore, if a lawyer commits a mistake, it is not a mistake because his mistake will be hung 1 foot above the ground. After all, one person, ये क्या बड़ी बात है, ये बहुत बड़ी बात नहीं है. If a doctor commits a mistake, even then it is not a mistake because his mistake will be buried 1 foot below the earth. That's all, 1 foot below the ground. Lawyer's mistake hangs 1 foot above the ground. Doctor's mistake gets buried 1 foot below the ground. After all, एक आदमी मर गया, बस कोई problem नहीं है. If an engineer commits a mistake, even then it is not a mistake because one full set of people, one full bus will collapse, one full aeroplane will explode. That's all. And one full train will collapse, no problem. How many have been dead? Hardly 1,000 people would have been dead. Nothing more. It is not a big thing. If a vice chancellor commits a mistake, even then it is not a mistake because the next vice chancellor has all the time, and next vice chancellor will have all challenges, and next vice chancellor will have all the pleasure to set right the previous vice chancellor's mistake. So even if a vice chancellor commits a mistake, nothing will happen to the university because after 5 years or after 4 years, a new vice chancellor would come. Even if a manager commits a mistake, it is not a big mistake because perhaps there will be a lockout for that company. Perhaps that organization gets locked out. That is all. Nothing more will happen. However, the teachers, we teachers, if we commit a mistake, we will not realize that because the realization happens only in the next generation because the next generation cannot be born at all. Next generation cannot open its eyes at all. Therefore, if we do not concentrate today on the formation of our candidate, and if we do not focus upon the formative assessment of the candidate today, and still if we continue to focus upon the stupid examination-based assessment, not only the next generation will be born, but next to next generation will also remain crippled. Please be aware of that. And I am very proud of Government of India. I'm very proud of the national education policy that in almost all sections, in 26 sections, all through it has been stressing upon the requirement, the need, the necessity, and the importance of formative assessment. I'm very happy that all teachers who have been listening over here are also knowing the fact that formative assessment is more important. But having listened to that, I'm very sure the principals and the institutions will take a strong stride towards implementing the formative assessment. Thank you very much for such a patient listening.